Hello, veterinary friends. Welcome to the podcast. Today I have a wonderful guest for you. Her name is Aoife Leggett. She is an IAPC&M accredited coach and master breathwork teacher who has an education in sports and performance psychology and movement and performance nutrition. She offers a well-rounded approach to helping clients build confidence, strengthen their mindset, and perform at their best in sport, business, and life. She has a coaching business called 360 Coaching, where she helps people lead happy, healthy, and fulfilled lives, achieving more than they ever thought possible. And I think you're really going to enjoy this guest today because she has an animal connection. Welcome to the podcast, Aoife.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for having me and that lovely intro. I'm excited
Yeah,
to have
I'm
a chat.
delighted to have you. And she's coming to us from Dublin, which is really fun. I love to talk to people from other countries, so it'll be
Yeah.
fun. And I love your accent.
Thank you.
So my my first question to everyone is to tell me their story. I like to hear how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So I suppose how I got to where I am today, it started way back when I was like a little girl. My family weren't horsey, but we had like dogs growing up and always loved animals. But I was always like really drawn to horses. Like if we were in the car driving somewhere and there was a horse in the field, I'd be like, stop the car, I want to get out and pet the horse. So I was just kind of naturally drawn to horses. And then my cousin had a horse when I was growing up and she used to compete a little bit. So she was very nice. She'd bring me along to the shows with her. And I just was like, thought it was the best thing ever. I was like, I love being here, looking at all the different horses, seeing my cousin ride. And I suppose just the like day out, getting to bring the picnic and all that. So I was kind of hooked. I used to ride then at my local riding school. And then there I would start like helping out on the weekends. I was only laughing with my friend the other day. I was like, if you ever watched the Saddle Club on like the TV, I was like, we really had like a Saddle Club youth. We had, there was three of us, we were all best
It's
friends.
very
We would
much like
stay,
that, huh?
yeah, we would stay at each other's house. Each night we'd go to somebody else's house. So that was a lovely kind of childhood and upbringing. And like they made us, well, we worked hard in the riding school. You know, you would do 2 full days of work for one lesson. And they kind of had high standards, which I think was good for us to know, you know, if you're going to do a job, you need to do it right. Otherwise, somebody will come and pull you up on it. So we had that kind of idyllic life there. And then I was lucky enough to get a horse when I was a little bit older, and I rode and did some junior eventing. And then that kind of was a little bit more serious in terms of the competition, like tried out for the junior squad in Ireland and was doing more competing and stuff. And had some good friends that were riding at quite a high level. So they were kind, they always either gave me a lift to the shows or they let me come with them to kind of see how it was sort of done. So got lots of experience there. Went to Germany with them to train some of the horses. And then went to college in Dublin and kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do after school, but I was always interested in people and how they work and all of that. So I did social science, and now looking back, I'm like, oh, that was kind of a nod to where I might end up, which is, you know, working with people and really being super interested in how they operate and all that. So during college, I kept working with the horses on my holidays and stuff. And then after I went to work for friends of mine who had kind of helped me when I was a junior as well. And they have now a really big sales yard and competition yard. They're called Cooley Farm. There's Cooley horses, a lot of them in America. And kind of almost ended up there by accident, but I'm really happy that I was there. I learned so much from them in terms of horsemanship, you know, how to start horses well, how to look after horses and, you know, have them fed really well, how to show horses for sale, how to create a good experience for that buyer that is coming in, you know. So I worked there for a number of years and worked alongside a really good friend of mine as well, Katie O'Sullivan. She was an excellent rider. And just learned and learned and learned. But then I kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, now I feel like I'm almost at the end of that path, or I feel like now I've reached a level where I don't see much more growth coming from this role. So kind of wasn't really sure where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. So I just my friends were going to do a ski season in Whistler. So I was like, I'll just go with you guys. So I kind of blindly went to Whistler to do a ski season long story short, while I was there, I ended up having a fall, breaking my leg, tearing all the ligaments in my
Oh
knee.
no.
Yeah, I got my leg operated on in Vancouver. And like that rehab was quite slow process, and I ended up having to come home to kind of I thought I'd be able to stay and cycle around in the summer, but my range was not great. So came home, rehabbed for a while, and then went back into working with the horses. Was working then in a place down in Cork where there was more older horses competing with two horses qualify for the Olympics. And that was kind of interesting for me because it was similar setup to where I'd worked originally, but the horses were older and they were maybe competing at a higher level. And I really loved the kind of attention to detail in terms of the veterinary care and like the horses were, high performers. How can we get this horse to tick? How can we help them feel better, look better, perform better? So I love that. But again, I kind of reached that same point where I was like, this is not the role that I see myself in for the next, 5, 10 years. Then I went and got and started doing some more kind of corporate work, which again was a great learning. Learned loads about systems, processes, more kind of online and digital work, but I felt like something was missing, and it was then I kind of actually got a recommendation of a coach from a friend of mine, Richard, and started working with her and sort of just playing around with ideas like what are you into? What do you enjoy? Where does all the joy come from when you think back of your career? And the joy came from yes, the success that we had as a team, but really in supporting individuals in, feeling like, oh, maybe I can do that, or maybe I'm better than I thought, or perhaps if I put in the work and train, I can achieve that goal. So that was kind of what in a roundabout way led me to coaching. It definitely wasn't like, okay, I know what I want to do now. But yeah, that's what led me here. And now I get to work with amazing clients from all over the world. Many of them are riders, which they love the fact that I've been in their shoes. I understand the relentless nature of live animals, that there's no days off, the pressure, the many kind of hats or plates that you spin. So yeah, I work with one-to-one riders and athletes, business owners. I also do some corporate stuff in Dublin, and some workshops with like teams, or I've been overseas working with like private teams as well. So yeah, delighted that I've kind of found my place where I'm like I could be here and keep growing and learning for forever, and I'd be happy.
Yeah, that is a really interesting path. And I love the fact that you're kind of taking the business ownership and the athletes and kind of crossing them over along with the animals, which of course we're always interested in. So
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about that? Like how does the athletic part of the riding, the people that you coach cross into the business ownership and the business pressures that we have? Because veterinarians have a lot of pressure in their businesses. Now, how does that kind of relate in your mind?
Yeah, I think sometimes with riders and with the sport that is kind of so like heart led and like passion led, people really struggle being a business person, as well. It's almost like, doing admin or planning behind the scenes isn't really work. Or I have loads of clients that are like, I'd like to maybe have a morning off or a day off. And they're like, oh, I'll do my admin that day, or I'll do my invoices. And I'm like, that's work. Like if you stop doing that work, the
That's not
whole
relaxing.
yeah, you're like the whole, and it's almost trying to change their perspective to be like, that kind of fundamental stuff that you have to do behind the scenes for it to be a business that functions is is just as important. But I think maybe because the people out on the yard, or similar if you're in a clinic, the people who are maybe out on the in the rooms with the animals, I don't know, is their perception the same? But I think sometimes on yards, it's very much like if you're not moving and working physically, it doesn't count as, important. But actually the background stuff is making everyone's wages are paid, making sure the bills are paid, ensuring that people are working for a reason, that the business isn't going to go into the red, and making sure that there's not money being wasted on things that are either not needed or not making the whole team more efficient or effective. So yeah, I think people do find it challenging to have the two lay side by side. And I find most of the time people are more feel more comfortable in that athlete performance. That's what they've grown up doing, they most of them been riding horses all their life, and then it's a natural progression, but they don't necessarily get the education or the knowledge that makes them feel like I'm also a business person. And I think
Mhm.
before riders especially maybe wouldn't call themselves athletes. Now they're kind of more stepping into that identity. I think also then, people who run the businesses, it's also being like you're also a business person. You do run your own business. And I think taking the head out of the sand actually is much more comforting for people. They think actually if you just like push all that stuff to the side, it's not worrying, but actually it just sits on you heavier than ever. I'm sure you have your own business and had your own practice, and I know myself. If you leave the accounts or leave some of the work that you have sitting for a while, it actually just creates that kind of pressure that you're holding when you're carrying around. So creating systems and processes that help people feel like they can stay on top of things and manage them well or get support where they need to really adds to like just a bit of a lighter feeling and more enjoyment of, day-to-day life, and also the match, as you said, of being a business person and an athlete.
Yeah. So is that how you coach people to balance the two, the actual job, which in your case is the athlete, and in our case would be the doctor or the veterinarian, whoever works in the practice, balancing with the business? Like what you said, systems and processes, is that kind of where you start? Or do you go for more of a mindset change? Or, how do you coach people at the beginning when they're feeling really unbalanced?
Yeah, I suppose for each person it'll be different. It'll be client led as coaching
Uh,
generally is, but I do have like some things that help in terms of exercise or strategies that I know have worked for other clients in terms of like my coaching program and how I work. I work over like a minimum of a 3 month period, if not six. So I kind of let the client say to me, we have calls bi-weekly. If they're like, this is the thing that's causing me the most amount of stress, we're like, right, let's tackle that this week. And then next week we can look at, maybe improving the performance. And it differs often as to when I meet the client. Like if they come to me when they're in their off season, we can set up some strategies and stuff beforehand. If they come to me mid-season, maybe their main focus is, helping themselves stay a little bit more regulated before they go to a competition. Or perhaps they're like, okay, I'm actually feeling like I'm managing okay at the competition, but the business and managing everything else is actually making me feel really, really overwhelmed. So, um, it's about helping them create strategies and processes that work for them, and then me giving them some ideas or tools that I know have worked for other clients.
Teach me a little bit, if you would, about it said in your bio, you're a master breath work teacher. And,
Yes.
and I know what breath work is, but teach us a little bit about that and what that means and what you teach people about
Yeah.
breath work.
Yeah, so I suppose my kind of journey to breathwork started like years ago when I was working with horses and maybe struggling a little bit to kind of manage the pressure of having a team of people, 30 horses, lots of we had maybe three or four riders competing at a high level, and feeling like I was always on the go, like constantly, and somebody kind of introduced me to a little bit of mindfulness and breath work. And at that time I was like, oh, I don't have time to sit down. I can't. That's no, no, that's something that's
Nobody
not
has time
my.
for mindfulness.
Yeah, yeah. And you're like sitting on the chair, you're like, oh, I know that there's this, and this to do, your phone bings. You're like, no, it's not gonna work.
That's
But
funny.
so initially my like experience with it was it doesn't work for me. I can't relax. But later on, I came back to it at a different stage in my life and kind of got a little bit more into meditation and really felt like, oh, this is really helping me to be less reactive, to be able to choose my reactions to people, to be a bit more patient, to be a bit more grateful, I suppose, or intentional about the mindset that I bring to every day. But I kind of knew that the people around me or the people that I'd worked with would be like meditation, nah, that's not for me. So I was almost like,
Meditation's too hard. You can't sit
yeah,
still.
yeah. It doesn't work for me. So I was like, well, breath work is a little bit more structured in terms of you're almost giving somebody something to focus on or an exercise to do. So I was like, I reckon that would work for riders or the people that I know in the past, or that version of me back in the day that, maybe needed something a little bit more structured to be like, okay, well, if I just listen to that voice and focus on what they're telling me, hopefully I get what I need from this. So that kind of led me to looking into breathwork. And then I found this breathwork guy in Ireland called Nilo Murku, who had been over all over the world. He's trained with like Wim Hof, he's trained with monks, he's trained with doctors, like loads of different specialists. And he actually also played basketball at a really high level. So um, I was part of his kind of first intake of breathwork teachers. And we went through level one, two, three, four, and five. So I trained over, I think it was 2.5 years. And each of the exercises is quite simple, but really effective when used, correctly and consistently, I suppose. And so that kind of brought me on a journey to learn the different techniques to start teaching other people, and really one feel how much of an impact it had on me, but also then get feedback from, groups or individuals that I was teaching. So now it's really a cornerstone of my coaching program, that one-to-one program that I do with people. Breathwork, as long as people are open to it, again, if they're like, "Do you know what, breathwork's not for me," that's fine. But I'm yet to meet somebody who has said that, and most of them actually are like, "You know what, this breathwork is really helping me more than I even imagined." Like I had one client a few weeks ago, and she was like, I feel almost stupid that I haven't like leaned into it earlier on, because she's like, it's 3 to 5 minutes and it makes such a big impact to my whole day. So yeah, I have a range of different techniques that my one-to-one clients, I'll send them like personalized recording. I will work on them, incorporating them daily if they can. But I suppose the end goal is for them when they do feel stressed or under pressure, or like they're at a show and they know that their nervous system is a little bit too activated. They have techniques that they can use to actually shift that. And when you ride a horse, if they're holding their breath, or if their breath is kind of like dysregulated, you can feel, you're like, I just really want this horse to take a deep breath and relax and exhale. And I always use that with the clients as well. I'm like, it's the same with us. If you're holding tension through your body, you're not going to be able to feel what's under you. You're not going to be able to ride optimally. So um yeah, that's kind of my breathwork journey and how I use it with clients.
Do you find with the riders that you work with that if they can get their mindset better and do the breath work and get less stressed, that it affects their horse? It seems like it
Yeah.
would. Seems like that would be
Yeah.
logical.
Yeah, definitely. Like horses are so sensitive and in tune with, not only the rider but also their environment, So it definitely helps the connection between horse and rider, and for the horse to feel a little bit more secure, and for the rider also just to not feel like there's so much in, a lot of writers would struggle with overthinking, or like thinking about the bad things that might happen. And the breath often becomes just a little reset that they can be like, right, how do I stay in this moment right now? What does my horse need from me here? And that provides, a strategy that allows them to ride better, I suppose. They're not in the past or the future. They're right there riding the horse that's under them.
Yeah, and that's so relatable to veterinarians. I could see, it's when we go into surgery and it's stressful, it's kind of a performance in a way. And I could see where that would be very similar. If you could get yourself into a calmer state and stay in the present moment. We talk about that a lot with my clients when we're talking about the high pressure of, being in the surgical suite, having the animal under anesthesia, working with clients that are upset, all those things are really high pressure situations. So it's very
Hmm.
similar to the
Yeah,
athletes that
yeah.
you coach.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I remember myself actually going in for surgery, and uh, like it's probably a similar setup in terms of, you've got all the nurses and all that high pressure. And I remember being like, it's very tense in here. Like I can feel like the team maybe aren't like gelling together, and I feel very rushed. And it was almost like everyone just needed to come together and take a breath. And they ended up, making a mistake. The anesthesia like went through my vein and started going into my like muscle system. And I remember they were kind of looking at me like, why are you not asleep? And I was like, this is really painful now.
Right.
I can deal with a lot of pain, but I felt like somebody was like pushing a bee sting. And then suddenly they looked at my hand, and then the doctor started giving out to the team. And I was like, I wish it would just like knock me out, please. I don't need to be here for that. But
Get me under so I don't have to listen
yeah,
to you
put me
all.
under quick. But a lot of or a few of the people who did the training with me, one of them is a nurse, and she actually does take it into her like theater. Now she said, obviously, with all the different personalities, you have to be careful. But she said a lot of the doctors would respond well in terms of as a team, they stop, they take a few breaths, they all settle themselves, and then they move forward. And it just takes away that kind of chaotic energy where you're more likely to make a mistake or make a decision where you're like, oh, if I had had a second to think about it, I maybe wouldn't have done that. So.
That's an interesting idea that I haven't talked about too much before. I don't think on the podcast is influencing the people around you by doing your own work, your breath work and your mindset. And do you see that kind of situation as something that people could do if they either tell other people to work with them in the breath or just become more focused themselves if people would notice?
Yeah, like when say I would do a talk with a corporate group or anything, I always prepare my own internal state first. So I'll do my own breathing. And I definitely think if you show up more calm and regulated, even if people around you are a little bit more, you know, have more adrenaline pumping through their body, they tend to relax a little bit. But if you meet their nervous energy with your nervous energy, it's almost like everybody is like that.
Everybody gets
Interestingly,
more jacked up.
yeah, yeah. Interestingly, when you do it like around animals or horses, a lot of the time they'll almost mimic your breath. So, like, there's one
Mm.
called a physiological sigh where you take a big deep breath in, pause, breathe in again, and then release. And if you do that around horses, a lot of the time they'll do the same thing. And I've noticed a lot of clients coming back being like, I was doing it while I was tacking up just to keep myself nice and calm. And my horse started doing it as well. So, my friend who got married last year, we were her bridesmaids, and she's a little bit of a jittery kind of person, was very excited. And we were walking down to bring her into the church. And I was like, okay, everyone, let's just take a few breaths in and out as we walk down. So we were all walking down, just breathing in and out together. And I think it helped everyone feel just a little bit more calm and almost like grounded and connected to the moment. And it was a nice thing for us to do together. So depends on your audience, I suppose. But my friends have come to lots of my breathwork classes and they're open to it. So I felt like I could there. I think with teams, if people are all into it together, it's nice to do it. But yeah, it's finding a way to be like, does this work for everyone, or am I forcing it on you, or do I need to just look after myself? And suddenly people then start to be like, hey, they seem like really cool and like calm and collected. I want some of whatever they
I
have.
want some of
So
that.
yeah, yeah. So it
Yeah,
depends on I suppose the people around you and their perception or their openness to try.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what am I not asking you that I'm missing? Like what key points would you like to offer the people that are listening to this podcast, either about coaching or about mindset or about more about your breath work or
I think the kind of point that you told me about your story resonated with me, that you were in a position where you'd been for a little while and you kind of felt like you needed a little bit of a change or more of a challenge. I think I felt like I was there as well in terms of my roles in the past. Just feeling I'm from the outset, maybe similar to you, my life looked perfect. Like, you've got a great job, you're well respected, you've got opportunities for yourself, but I kind of knew deep down that it wasn't the right place for me or it wasn't fully aligned. And it was working with that original coach that really opened up my eyes. And I know you said that gives you a real thrill is to help you to show clients that they can achieve more or there's the sky's the limit really. And I think I found that through coaching myself is that like most of those things that we say we can't do are just limiting beliefs that we've decided we have. Like I remember when I first started coaching, I was like, oh, I could never post on social media or I could never stand up. And now I'm like, actually it's fine. It's a fear that you have. You face it. If you do a little bit of work in the background to be like, why is that there? Am I gonna let it hold me back? There's really not much now that I wouldn't do. So as we said, I'm like when I first did coaching, I was like, everybody needs a coach. It's so enlightening. And I think for a
say
lot of
that all the time.
yeah,
Everyone should do it.
yeah. And I think especially for a lot of my clients who are really busy and really ambitious, the space just to pause and have an hour every 2 weeks, or if that's too much from every 3 weeks, really allows them to be like, okay, I'm living life on my terms. These are the goals that I chose, not that somebody else has put in front of me. If goal A doesn't come off, maybe that's been picked for a team. What's a goal B that I can make sure that my life doesn't kind of feel like it's crumbling apart if I don't get that A. So yeah, having that space and kind of being forced to create that space to talk about what's going well, what's challenging you, what you can kind of double down on to get more from life or more from your performance, or just having place to kind of vent and let it all out. Like a lot of my clients would have trainers on the ground, but those trainers don't have an hour to talk to somebody about their nerves or how they can optimize their preparation mentally before the competition. And that's, I suppose, where the added layer of support comes in with me. They just feel like, if something goes badly or well, they can chat to me about it and we can see what we can learn from it and how we can move forward rather than, feeling maybe stuck in that place. So yeah, I love that that's kind of what I give to them is this place to be like, right, are we on the right track? If not, how do we redirect? And if we're on the right track, how do we push a little bit more? Or maybe I'm feeling a little bit low or a little bit tired. How can I get myself back to that kind of baseline where I want to be? So, yeah.
And it ends up when you're being coached or when you're coaching someone, it ends up being a real relationship, a real supportive, um, not, I don't want to really call it a friendship because it's really not, it's a coaching relationship, but it really does give you somebody that really cares about you, getting you to the next level, really cares
Mhm.
about making things right for you, and
Yeah.
helping you really plan the next step in your life so you can be successful. And I think that's what's really interesting about coaching is that relationship with the two people working for the good of the one person, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
That's what I
definitely.
love
I like
about it.
I always say to clients when they come or when we chat before, I'm like, it's a collaborative relationship. Yes, you're leading the decisions. I'm here to help you and encourage you and support you. And I want your success as much as you do, but I'm here to empower you to take those steps. And yes, I'll be
Right.
your cheerleader if you need accountability and for me to check in on you, I can do that too. But
Mhm.
yeah, as you said, it's having somebody in your corner, I always say, that is like rooting for you, that's maybe not inside that initial bubble, that you feel like maybe gives you the feedback that you need or just bounces off the energy that you have. Like I have a few clients whose parents would be really supportive, but they're like, they just give me back the energy that I emit. So whether if it's gone bad, it's like a negative energy. If it's gone good, it's good. And I'm like, okay, how do we help you to regulate yourself so that you can be kind of that energy that you want to have? Or maybe how do we set it up so that you communicate with those around you what you need from them if you're at a big show. So yeah, it's not getting that kind of false sense of perception of where you're at. It's really a nice, honest and open place to communicate, which is nice, I think.
And it's really quite low pressure too, from the standpoint. I have some people that ask me about coaching and they're concerned that they don't have the time to do the work, the homework or whatever. And it's like it's really at your own pace. It's very much, what you can do. And even if you don't do anything and you come to coaching the next week and nothing that you had planned to do gets done, it's all okay. It's not, it's very
Yeah,
non-judgmental and supportive, which I found
yeah,
when I was getting coached. I thought, oh, I got to do my homework. And sometimes you just don't. And yeah, it's
yeah,
it's all okay. You just start from where you are and move forward. So
yeah.
I think that's
Or
interesting.
Or I found, if you don't do something, and I've noticed myself and with my clients, and they're like, oh, I didn't want to come back because I hadn't done it. I'm like, that's information for us. That's like, is there a resistance there? Is there something behind that? Like, that's fine.
Right.
Maybe it's a different route that we need to take, or, maybe you do need more support or more accountability. But yeah, sometimes that inaction is like a sign that maybe we're doing the wrong thing. But yeah, I agree. It's whatever they can put in. And with my clients that are really quite busy. It's like, how can we keep the actions to a minimum, maybe one, maybe two, and how do we set you up for success? Like, what might get in the way of you doing that, or where might it be make the most sense for you to pop that into your routine, or exactly as you said, whatever they can manage. But often I find even just that conversation, like I had a discovery call last week, and it's happened to me many times before. The person's like, oh, actually, it just felt like something shifted a little bit in me. And I was like, that's just like, opening the valve and being like, whoa, all this came out, and then suddenly something feels a little different. And then I'm like, then we can build on it from there. But often the conversation is almost the catalyst. And then the thing that maybe they thought was going to be hard to do becomes a little easier, or they can create a bit more of a clear action plan for themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of like that possibility thinking. It opens that up for us when we're
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
that.
definitely.
Okay, is there anything else that we forgot to say that we should say that you can think of?
Um, I think the breath work we've talked about a little bit, but like for me, I always say to people when they come to me, whether you decide tomorrow that you're not going to compete at all, like I want you to feel like you've gotten tools from this experience that last you a lifetime, So
Right.
breath work, like I say to people, it's performance breath work, but like performance breath work could be if you're late for school and you're jamming all your kids in the car and everyone's stressed and you're like, okay, how do we actually make the journey from A to B more enjoyable? Do we all need to just take a couple of breaths? So for me, they're kind of skills for life that I would love if they started teaching them in schools, which actually, again, a
Sure.
few of the people in my course were teachers and they started to bring it into their classes. And I've worked with a few youth groups and I thought, oh, I don't know if they'll kind of take to this, but most of them I would have done like a variety of work, like some coaching, and then I put some breath work in there. And most of their key takeaway was the breath work, because they feel so much pressure, I think, especially at a young age, to do well or not to fail. And it just gives them that ability to kind of rebalance. So yeah, I would look like anybody, I think breath work is a handy or a life skill that they can have, and especially people like veterinarians or athletes or business owners that are under a lot of pressure. It's like the pressure isn't going to suddenly go away one day. You just have to find a way to manage yourself better. I'm sure you can recognize that from dealing with business and all of the challenges
Sure.
that come up through business. You just get more resilient or more tools.
Yeah, so if you learn anything from this podcast, it's to learn some breath work.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And
important
there's
for everything, right?
yeah, there's lots of different types out there. So there's kind of more um like active sort of breath holds, like Wim Hof would be a little bit more on the not extreme side, but a bit more active. The techniques that I would teach generally are more nervous system regulating, so that it's going to help you to calm yourself, to release some pressure. So I've often had people come to say some of my sessions and then go to other ones and they're like, I thought it was going to be the same and really nice and calming, but it wasn't. There was a lot of like nearly holding and shouting. So I'm like, just check what you're getting into first. But and lots of
It's
people
not all the same. Breath work
not
isn't all the same.
yeah, yeah. And lots of people have been introduced to it, I suppose, through yoga or Pilates. They would do a little bit of breath work in there. But yeah, life skills that are really handy to have.
Well, tell everyone before we end here where they can find you, your website, your social media, all those things if they want to learn more about you and what you do.
Yeah. So my website is 360coaching.ie, all spelled out. There's lots of free resources on that website. I have like a tab and there's a few exercises and stuff there. So that's a nice place to get some resources. I am on Instagram at Aoife Leggett Coach. The Irish spelling might get a few people, so they might want to check the episode notes for that. But on there, I try to provide
Yeah,
lots.
we'll put the way to spell her name.
Yeah.
It doesn't look the same as it sounds.
Yeah, a good Irish name to catch any of my international clients. But yeah, I try and share useful tips and resources and stuff on there, as well as some of my clients' kind of stories. And then my email is aoife at 360coaching.ie. So yeah, I'm lucky enough. I've got clients across the world, which is amazing. Yeah, Australia, the US, the UK. So yeah, if anyone does want to have a chat or just connect, I'd love to talk to any of your listeners. So
That's one of the things that's really fun about coaching too, is meeting people from different countries. Because I have
yeah,
a client from Ireland, and it's just fun
amazing.
to make friends
Yeah,
with people in other countries and coach different
yeah,
people.
yeah.
And that's
And
that's the beauty of the internet.
yeah, and I think for coaching as well, like it's important to find somebody that you genuinely want to talk to. I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to become a coach too, is because the lady that I spoke to, I was like, I would want to have a chat with you if I met you at an event or to go for a drink with
Mhm.
you at the bar. And that's what I want my clients to feel like, comfortable and like they can kind of connect with me. So yeah, that's why it's nice. You've got coaches all over the world now. You can pick to work with somebody from Ireland or the US. It's all about being like, yeah, I feel like this person gets me. We have good rapport, and I feel like they connect with my story a little bit. That's the person that I want to work with. And I know that from my own self looking for a coach, I had a few that I was looking at a few years ago, and I said like this girl's values align with mine, and I want to work with her, and I'm really happy that I did. So again, the internet is amazing. You've got lots of different options.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been really fun talking to you and getting to know what you do. And I think your mission aligns really well with ours, and we can learn a lot from you. So we'll have to keep in touch and keep this relationship going.
Yeah, definitely. If you ever come to visit your Irish client, we'll have to meet up. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I was in Ireland 2 summers ago, but I didn't get to
Amazing.
stay long enough. So I definitely want to go
Okay.
back.
Yes. Yeah. Where did you go to?
Dublin.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
The,
exactly where I went. Yeah.
the West is my favorite. It's down, West is beautiful, like
Yeah, we
rugged
didn't get to
Irish.
travel too much because we were only there a few days, but
Yeah.
so I definitely want to go back.
Yeah, do. Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me on, Julie. And yeah,
Yeah,
like I
thanks
said,
everybody. This is Aoife Leggett. Thanks for listening and have a beautiful week.
you
Thanks.
too.
Bye, Aoife.